Welcome to Time for Emerging Markets. This is an initiative from the Emerging Markets Institute at Cornell S.C. Johnson College of Business at Cornell University. My name is Lourdes Casanova. I'm from Spain, and I am the director of the Emerging Markets Institute, where we have a program called EMI Fellows Program, and it's part of our education. A group of MBA students from Cornell Tech, executives MBA, and also undergraduates, follow a number of requirements, and they graduate with a certificate in emerging markets. We also do research on emerging market multinationals and other issues around countries like China, Brazil, Mexico, India, Nigeria. And we use this video that was an initiative started first by two undergraduate students, Manuela Cavalier from Colombia and Magdalena Zorrilla from Mexico. They came with this idea to use the videos to reach a wider audience. We called it Tea Time with Emerging Markets, and we believe now that is time for emerging markets, and that's what we are going to start today, this new phase of this initiative. And we have here with us 3 students, and they are going to introduce themselves and talk about this new phase that we are starting. Nitin?
Thank you, Professor Lourdes. So my name is Nitin Bajaj, and I'm a first-year MBA student. With this new version of Tea Time Chats, we invite you to explore the disruptive power of emerging markets. And there are 3 salient features of the new talks that we're going to introduce starting next week. Number 1, it's meant to be a voice of the emerging markets. Number 2, it's a discussion between experts and non-experts. And number 3, it's an intergenerational discussion. And let me take a moment to talk about what the expert-non-expert discussion part of it means. We understand that one of the major reasons why policymakers run afoul of academics is that academics quite often work in silos, and they have what people like to call pure ideas that do not have any room for compromise. You know, my father often used to tell me that JFK, John Kennedy, was a better custodian of capitalism than the people who cried philosophical betrayal at the first wave of New Deal. Mm-hmm. And he precisely was that because he knew that the idea that a particular idea can die if it's too pure. Mm-hmm. There always has to be need for compromise. And therefore we bring in non-experts such as students like ourselves who can bring in a real world perspective into discussions with the academics. Barbara, do you want to talk about the intergenerational aspect of our talks?
Yes. My name is Barbara Garza. I'm a freshman in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm going to speak about the intergenerational dynamic that we foster. So our group gives a voice to younger students and undergraduates like myself that will eventually deal with the issues that are emerging today. We believe that millennials are changing the world by bringing their global perspective. I, for example, am from Mexico, so I often give insight into the Mexican market and the Latin American market as a whole.
And as someone who is at the intersection of all of these aspects of the EMI, I'm from Brazil, I'm an academic finishing a Ph.D., and I'm at the tail end of being a millennial. And so what really kind of brought me to the Emerging Markets Institute was that it was just very attentive to the times. You know, we're seeing a realignment happening around the world in terms of so much protagonism coming from countries like China, India, Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa. And a lot of that energy that we know of because we've lived it was just not having the weight and the kinds of conversations were not taking place with the seriousness and with the kind of dynamism that we were looking for. And part of what excited us about the EMI was that you could see this in the output, and of course in the scholarly production that we have all been collaborating in so many different ways, but also in the people. And so the conversations and the connections are really quite special. And some of that you can't see in what is produced by the EMI, and so we're hoping that a setting like this can actually, give a little bit more of that sense of the energy that's behind the EMI and the possibilities that perhaps video and audio might offer by way of a more in-depth conversation that can really feature new voices. That is not just a conversation about emerging markets from the perspective of the United States, but rather really lifting up emerging market voices to speak for themselves and on their own terms, and across generations.
At EMI, we say that we encourage dialogue and we build bridges. And in fact, the theme of the next conference in November will be constructive engagement. That's the spirit of this dialogue, the spirit of today, the spirit that we want to foster. The idea that the disruption, as we were saying at the beginning, caused by emerging markets is for years to stay. In business school, everything is about disruptive technology. And we believe that the rise in this kind of new affirmative type of acts that we see on the side of emerging markets are equally disruptive. So that's what these conversations that we want to bring. And also, we all have our own biases. That's unavoidable, and that's the way we work. But if we bring those voices, as you all say, from emerging markets directly, this bias will come also from another bias that will be their own. So that's why in every single conversation that we will have always people who come from one of those countries that we want to cover and that we cover in emerging markets. We are, of course, we can work because the support of the university, the support of so many benefactors, but at the same time, this initiative, there is no funding involved. It's a new initiative, and we want to keep it as it is, fresh, new, different, and for us, a way to learn, to experiment. I tell my students, my world was a world of writing. Now the new world is images and videos. And that's why so important that we all learn to use this new medium. So maybe I wanted also, Nitin, we have a committee of plenty of students who are volunteering to make this idea a reality, not stay as a pure idea, but a reality. So maybe you can say a little bit about the next subjects, the subject that we covered last week and the one that we are going to cover, that you are thinking of making it like various videos covering the same subject?
Sure. So the last one we had a chat with Professor Ravi Kanpur on the subject of inequality, which we thought was extremely timely. And we're planning to do a series of interviews based on the US-China trade war, which seemed imminent at least a few weeks ago, and we don't know what might come in the future. So we're trying to, still in the process of talking to people to see if we can schedule a number of talks with economists, all sorts of economists, development economists, monetary policy experts, fiscal policy experts, to see if we can talk about the US-China trade war.
That's a very important subject. Of course, Eudes, you are coming from Brazil, many things happening in Brazil, and we want also to look at the economics and also the business perspective, because EMI is within the College of Business at Cornell, and I always tell them politics too complicated, politics, of course, very important, but we always look at the business and economic angle. So what is happening in politics influence economy and business and vice versa. So that's the angle that we are taking in this one. So maybe you can add a little bit more of the experience that we had in the previous ones, Eudes?
So to the extent that this particular setting is innovative, is we're trying to bring in experts from emerging markets, but not just make it a conversation about expertise. And really trying to translate all of this very important information and very important knowledge about all of these technical domains that have so much weight and power over our lives, but really bring it into the realm of everyday life and translate it across generations, translate it across national boundaries, and to what extent this conversation can be expanded and opened up, and what are the possibilities that lie therein. And so we invite you in that spirit to join us, not just from within the perspective of the diversity of the voices at this table, but also for those listening to us in your respective screens. Please join us in the comment section, and we look forward to the episodes to come.
And maybe, Barbara, in closing, so you bring perspective of a newcomer to Cornell, really newcomer, and also a newcomer from Mexico, as you say, and Latin America, a lot of experience in the rest of Latin America, and also gender. I am also thinking that we need to have different views because of our upbringing, the country we come from, our gender, etc. So we are very happy also, Barbara, that you are joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we all will learn with the different experiences, because these experiences, that's what makes the conversation more reaching and more rich and more meaningful. So we are very happy. We put the videos in the YouTube channel of Emerging Markets Institute, and also in the Facebook page, and also we put them in the LinkedIn and Twitter. So we'll also put the different links so that can be reached in different ways. And as Eudes was saying, we expect comments. At this point, social media can be a little bit overwhelming, too much information, too many things, but definitely we have this niche that is emerging markets. And we hope that you can join us, as Eudes was saying, in comments and in bringing new ideas, which subjects we should handle in different videos. So thank you. In closing, Nitin, something?
No, I just want to reiterate that even though you might get an impression these are very casual conversations, but we'll try to make them as rigorous as possible. We'll try to go 2 or 3 layers of abstractions deep to sort of really talk to the experts to see what they have to say and how those ideas can be translated towards policy manifestos or concrete policy points.
Very good. Eudes?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And till next week, that we'll talk about US-China trade war with an expert, Ann Miru, who was many years at the United Nations and who always said that trade was over, that we would never be talking about trade anymore, and now trade again is front page of any newspapers and front page of our lives. So that will be the next subject. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.